friend of mine posted my music to a forum. There was actually like a wanted ad for music for a cell phone game, and he posted my music to this thread, and he was like, hey, check this out. And then I like followed up with the person who posted the ad, and then like months later they got back to me and they're like, hey, actually we do need music. Do you want to write some for this like pre-smartphone era like cell phone game? So it was like very sort of like primitive technology, but I got to write music and make sound effects, and I got paid, and I was like 19, and I was like, wow, this is cool. I never had like a strong intention, like I'm gonna go into film. I was always like, I'm gonna work on games. And then one day I kind of got pulled into it, and so I'm like slowly sort of like finding my way, I would say. So it follows the director David Robert Mitchell. He played the game Fez that I scored back in 2012, and he really liked the music, and so he emailed me. I wasn't really sure about it, like it was kind of weird to me. And I didn't have a lot of context, but once I saw his first movie, Myth of the American Sleepover, I was really intrigued, because that movie is so unlike any horror movie that I've ever seen. It just made me really curious about what his vision was and what he was going to do for that. When David was pitching Silver Lake to me, I think he just sent me the script to read, and noticing all these sort of threads, like I really like movies that have a lot of ambiguous content in them and are challenging, because I think they reward repeated viewings and they get you to think about things. It's kind of similar to the way I think about like tarot readings, where like you're given like a prompt. To me, it's like a prompt and that gets you to like think about things in a new way. I normally try to seek out projects where I'm pushing my boundaries a little bit, and that was like a really big leap for me. But luckily, David had someone that he had worked with before. His name is Kyle Newmaster, who's a very talented, experienced composer who's done a lot of work with orchestras. And so we were involved from the beginning together. I mean, we had a 48-piece orchestra, but it was actually more than that in terms of musicians, because it's different musicians every day, or every session. Because the movie's set in LA, because it's so sort of multifaceted and ambitious in a certain sense, I think he really saw it as like an opportunity to pay homage to film, and sort of the history of filmmaking in the area is woven into the narrative of the movie. And so having sort of a classic Hollywood affectation in the music was something that I think just made a lot of sense.
There's a message in the music.
Words memorized, words hypnotized.
Really think you're gonna find a hidden message in a pop song?
There are some pretty good music placements in the movie. Do you know what I mean? Like big songs, like especially when you watch the trailer, you know.
REM.
Yeah. Are you thinking about how it integrates with that kind of stuff, or is it like, no, it stands alone?
Yeah, I mean, it's all part of the sound world and sort of the narrative of the movie, not just sort of the classic Hollywood and sort of the noir vibes, but also the main character's sort of relationship to music. You know, there's sort of like at least my sense of them is sort of like a very old Gen Xer or like a very young millennial who's really sort of caught up in like, you know, early 90s like rock and stuff like that. So that was always like in the back of my head when I was doing the score, but also, you know, when I was writing the Turning Teeth track, or anything really, because we had a lot of different kinds of music that we had to do, not just score. We also had to, you know, do that song, as I said, but also there's sequences in the film. There's an arrangement of To Sir With Love that we had to write for like a quartet. And yeah, it's interesting because it's different. You want it to stand apart from the score, but it's all sort of like referencing the same sort of world. And the score has a really fun job in this movie. It does a lot of foreshadowing. It acknowledges, you know, a lot of the threads that sort of unravel as Sam, the main character, sort of goes deeper and deeper into this mystery. You'll hear, you know, motifs that like reference different characters that you haven't met yet. Sort of the references to video games in the movie, and sort of like this, you know, the secrets that, you know, kids would try to uncover when they were playing games in the 80s, like Legend of Zelda, and you had to like figure stuff out with pen and paper. And there's certainly a lot of composers and scores that inspired me, especially earlier on in my career. I think about someone like Koji Kondo in video games, who did Zelda and Mario and all those games. Just the sort of diversity of his output, and like his ability to sort of like move between different styles, and just the quality of his work was always really inspiring. Or someone like Yasunori Mitsuda, who did Chrono Cross and Chrono Trigger, which are RPGs. Just his ability to sort of like riff on and be inspired by music from other cultures, and the way that he plays with harmony and like rhythms, and was always really inspiring to me. For me, I found what keeps me inspired is treating every project as its own thing, and being open to working in different mediums and different genres, and just trying to interface with new ideas and new things, and try to keep it interesting.
Under